Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the online VGC 20 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. For the last two episodes, we've been featuring the Rain team that I built very early season, so we'll be playing one more episode with it. Like I mentioned, I think the sweet spot for Road to Rank is basically featuring a team for 2 to 3 episodes, so yeah, we've had a really nice set of games with this team, honestly, and we've gotten quite lucky as well, so I'm kind of expecting the luck to run out at some point, but I'll take what I can get, honestly. So let's just jump into the first game of today's episode. I feel like we've gone up against this team, actually, maybe on Road to Ranked a couple of episodes ago. I had some really cool stuff as well, but to be honest, I don't remember it super well. So I will say that this does feel pretty friendly towards Duraludon. So there were a bunch of obvious combos in my opponent's end. The first one is just the Rillaboom and the Drifblim, which obviously you get the Grassy Seed on the Drifblim, you get Priority Tailwind as well. So that's definitely a threat. I think Duraludon looks pretty good here. Rain actually looks quite solid, but there are two things that make me a little bit hesitant to just immediately bring it out. The one is just, Tyranitar. And 2 is the Grimmsnarl, which could potentially have Thunder Wave. 3 is actually a Milotic, so yeah, a bunch of things that scare me away. And as you guys have seen, when I play with this team, Duraludon Dynamaxes almost like every time. So I feel like I'm still leaning towards maxing Duraludon here. Like, I could not even bring Rain at all, but I feel like bringing Politoed feels good in this matchup. So what I'm leaning towards is like Whimsicott Duraludon with Rillaboom and Politoed. Togekiss is actually not bad offensively either, though. But then that does make me... I do have Superpower on this Rillaboom, actually. So, yeah, I'm actually not going to bring Ray at all. And as you guys have seen with me playing with this team, I often don't even bring Politoed or Kingdra, but once again, having it in team preview means that my opponent has to respect it as a lead. So, we'll see if we can continue our fortunate win streak with this team, but as always, if you guys enjoy, please show support by leaving a like in the video. And question of the day, I'm curious how you guys think Season 5 or Series 5 of VGC 2020 stacks up to the previous seasons that we've had, whether it be previous VGC formats or more specifically Series 1 through 4 of this format. Let me know in the comments below. I'm honestly really curious on everyone's opinions. For me personally, I've been enjoying it a lot, but I'm not sure if that's because it's just so drastically different from all the other seasons or all the other series. So yeah, I'm still having fun with it though, and I think it's cool just trying out all these new combinations of Pokemon. Okay, so one of the big questions in this situation is always like, do you have a flying type attack on the Drifblim? If so, you could like double up onto the Whimsicott. I don't think my Duraludon is at threat of actually getting damaged on the first turn, so I might not even Dynamax, to be honest, because I don't think I get very much out of that. One thing I want to do here is potentially just go for a... Thunderbolt's better than Dark Pulse here, because we're not going to flinch anyway, so it does more damage. Yeah, so we could just Thunderbolt into the Drifblim, try to get that out of the way. I don't have Protect on the Whimsicott, otherwise I would probably try to go for a Protect. So if I'm expecting an attack from Drifblim, I don't know, I could switch out into Togekiss here, which I don't mind very much. It means I won't get Tailwind Up immediately, but I'm not sure I really need Tailwind Up, because like this Drifblim is going to be fast, it's going to get Tailwind Up probably anyway. So, yeah, let's see. I doubt they max here, right? No, they actually do max. So maybe it's a max Drifblim then with Grassy Seed, which would be really interesting. Let's see. No, it's going to be Rillaboom maxing. It's going to be G-Max Rillaboom. Okay. I am okay with that, I think, especially because Togekiss matches up pretty nicely against Rillaboom. In fact, it's probably one of the best counters to Rillaboom. Yeah, my opponent just opted for Tailwind. Okay, that's fine, because once we KO our opponent's Drifblim, we'll be able to have the late game Tailwind advantage here. It's going to be Max Quake, which makes a lot of sense. So, nice play around my Whimsicott turn 1. Goes into Duraludon. Does so much damage. But now I'm actually pretty glad I didn't Dynamax that Duraludon. And I think we actually Dynamax the Togekiss now. And it's funny because like I was on the fence of even bringing Togekiss into this matchup, and now I think it's actually going to be really important. Especially, to be honest, if we just land a critical hit onto the Rillaboom, like we probably just win on turn 2. So, to be honest, I think here we just sacrifice the Duraludon. I don't think it really gives us any more value at this point. We're going to Dynamax the Togekiss and just Airstream into the Rillaboom. Because if we sack our Duraludon, we can bring in the Whimsicott and just set up a Tailwind, which is pretty good here. So, I'm just going to Thunderbolt into the Drifblim, Dynamax, and just go for an Airstream here. I guess I could actually Yawn the Rillaboom as well, but I think I'd rather just go for offense at this point because I don't see what other Pokemon we Dynamax in this matchup. Duraludon's already taken too much health, or too much damage. Whimsicott is, really almost never Dynamaxed unless it's a very specific scenario. And my Rillaboom, I would say, is used more as a non-max Pokemon than as a max Mon, just because you want to be able to take advantage of Grassy Glide often. So let's see. Okay, just gonna off for Shadow Ball. I would think this KOs, but we do have the Assault Vest, so maybe we survive? No, unfortunately not. Wishful thinking there, but that's fine. The main thing is that Rillaboom, actually, okay, it has Max Strike, so I was gonna say it doesn't have a way to do damage to us, but the Max Strike allows it to actually hit us more than any other attack it could go for. And that was a crit too, so yeah, I wasn't really doing much damage at all. Unfortunate that we eat up the crit, but for how many crits I got yesterday, I really don't think I can complain. Especially because both of those were like game-winning crits. Huge max airstream there though. Has the Koba Barrier, which I think that was a crit there. Yep. Which is pretty good because this boosts us back to neutral, and now I can just bring in Whimsicott and click Tailwind, which means we should have the max advantage in this game. Another airstream is just going to KO that Rillaboom, I think. So, not a terrible spot to be in. Obviously, eating up a crit never feels great, but all things considered, like, once again, I said as I started this episode, I'm expecting the luck to run out eventually, because we've been pretty fortunate so far in our run of games in this series. But yeah, now we can just click Tailwind and Airstream here. I feel decent because my Rillaboom matches really well against what could potentially be in the back in Tyranitar, Milotic, even Grimmsnarl, so don't remember my opponent's last Pokemon right now, but this is the problem with Drifblim. After you get Tailwind up, it's not able to really do that much, although Shadow Ball still is able to, you know, do a okay amount. It's Max Guard, okay, so Fake Out, a Grass type attack, a Ground type attack, and Protect is the Rillaboom's moveset. No Superpower, like no Fighting type attack, no Knockoff, which is pretty interesting to me. Drifblim has Icy Wind, but I don't think that actually does too much for my opponent right now. Yeah, that's going to be max over now from the Rillaboom as well. We'll be able to KO that this next turn. Icy Wind is actually doing a sizable amount of damage, so that's probably the best play my opponent could have gone for. We're still faster, but of course the Drifblim can continuously click Icy Wind. What's actually important is that we knock out the Drifblim before it gets another Tailwind up, I think. There's only one turn of Tailwind left too, and this thing really... The Rillaboom can't touch Togekiss, right? So I think what we actually do here is just KO the Drifblim with the Max Airstream. And I don't know if Moonblast is enough to KO, but Rillaboom shouldn't be able to KO us in return. Icy Wind plus something might KO the Whimsicott, though. I don't mind going for Fake Tears onto Rillaboom and Airstream onto the Drifblim. Just because then the Rillaboom's in KO range from like a Dazzling Gleam, potentially. Okay, it actually switches out. It's going to be Tyranitar coming in, okay. So, trying to maybe bait a Moonblast into activating Weakness Policy, but yeah, I have to KO the Drifblim here because otherwise, they just get another Tailwind up, and we really don't want that. My Rillaboom, like I said, is a pretty favorable matchup against what they've brought right now. Okay, Icy Wind comes out. Whimsicott actually dodges it, so good fortune continues. Now, dealing with my opponent's Tyranitar might be a little bit tricky in this late game, but I'm thinking this is where my Rillaboom comes in handy, and this is why I targeted the Drifblim over targeting my opponent's Rillaboom. Especially because we know the Rillaboom moveset, right? We've seen the Max Strike. We've seen the Ground type attack. It obviously has a Grass type attack, and the Max Guard would Protect, so don't think you can really hit the Togekiss at all, and this is one of the reasons why Togekiss is still so good. Like, if you look at usage stats for the format right now, Rillaboom's all the way at the top, and then you have Togekiss right under it, and yeah, if you ask me what the best answer to Rillaboom was, honestly, I think Togekiss is one of, if not the best answer to it, because it resists all of the main attacks that it wants to be going for. Okay, so Rillaboom comes back in. Moonblasting last turn would have just ended up being nicer for damage, but what can I say? We don't want to activate a Weakness Policy right now. That's the one thing we have to play around. So I'm actually leaning towards just Moonblasting the Rillaboom and switching my Togekiss out into my Rillaboom. Because I've got Superpower, I've got Tailwind. Moonblast won't KO the Rillaboom, but I'll be able to just put it in KO range from any other attack at this point. Maybe, I mean, had I just Moonblasted last turn, that might have just worked out better. Could they actually fake out the Whimsicott and probably just Rock Slide? Yep, that's fine. See if Whimsicott can survive this. I don't think so, but... Nice! It actually does survive. That's huge. Yeah, and it hangs on even after Sand. Beautiful. Okay. So, obviously we have Superpower into Tyranitar now, but they could switch out Tyranitar, which is a concern. It's funny because we have all these super effective attacks against Tyranitar, but even that's still, like, not amazing. Grassy Terrain is gone, though, which is good, because it means you can't Grassy Glide me easily for a KO. I am Max Speed Rillaboom. So I think I don't even need to worry about Tail, unless my opponent actually has Cinderace as the last one. Because what I could do right now is switch Whimsicott out into Togekiss and Superpower Tyranitar, which allows me to potentially get a second Tailwind up in this game. The alternative is just to Moonblast and sacrifice the Whimsicott and get a free switch into Togekiss. Yeah, I think I'm just going to Moonblast Superpower here. Let's see. Okay, Tyranitar protects. That was kind of an obvious protect. I don't mind that too much. A double up onto Rillaboom would have secured the game up for, here for us, but I don't think that was a risk worth taking. It almost faints, unfortunately, but it hangs on with just a little bit of health left. Okay, she's gonna Grassy Glide us. But yeah, I think this is still fine, right? Because I get Togekiss out now. I know you protected with Tyranitar last turn. So I can just click Dazzling Gleam now. The Rillaboom does have Protect, though, which we have to be aware of. But Terrain's not up anymore, right? So it's gonna faint from... I guess it won't faint from this turn of Sand, but one more turn. However, this also means I don't need to commit a Superpower. I can just go for Dazzle and Grassy Glide. It really comes down to what my opponent's last Pokemon is. Yeah, I don't want to get the attack drop here. And with Expert Belt, we should pick up the KO onto Tyranitar anyway. Should have maybe doubled up onto Rillaboom. I mean, the Tyranitar Protect there is so obvious, right? But I think it was still worth going for. Because if we call that incorrectly and Rillaboom actually protects and Tyranitar Rock Slides, probably just lose the game off that, to be honest. So they don't protect or switch out, which means it's a double KO here. Unless Dazzling doesn't KO, but this is like max offense Togekiss, so I think it should. Yeah, the weakness policy there is obviously not surprising. That's what we were expecting to see. Dazzling Gleam comes out. Perfect, double KO. Okay? Crit there, but I don't think the crit really mattered on as a double crit there. But I don't think those really mattered too much. A lot of critical hits in the last 2 episodes, though, I have to say, folks. Okay. All comes down to what my opponent's last one is. If it's Milotic or Grimmsnarl, game is instantly won. If it's Cinderace, this game... Actually, if it's Cinderace, I think my opponent just wins. And it probably is, based on how they're playing this. It is! Okay, props to them. Do I have any outs here? Oh, this is the one reason to have conserved for another Tailwind. Yeah. You just Pyro Ball here into Togekiss, right? Without Terrain, there's really not much we can do. Superpower, I don't think Life Orb Superpower may be KO Cinderace, but no Life Orb means no KO, so could miss, I guess. Or they could mess up and go for an Iron Head or a Sucker Punch for some reason. So I think I just Superpower, because that's that's the maximum damage output and Air Slash. So well conserved. Yep, they go for Pyro Ball. So I think we need probably a crit here. Oh, they target Rillaboom though, which means if you are Life Orb and Air Slash crits, we win. So I'm surprised they target the Rillaboom there. But to be honest, after all the crits we got yesterday, I hope we don't crit. It would just feel kind of unfair. And that was a crit, but it didn't KO. Nice, Cinderace is clutch. So my opponent's gonna end up winning this. This was a really close game though. I think I didn't expect the Rillaboom to max. That caught me off guard. It might have been better just to have Moonblasted with my Whimsicott the turn the Tyranitar switched in. The Tyranitar protecting was a really easy read to have made. They did just go for Iron Head. Yeah, so I think Air Slash Superpower there was fine. I was thinking with the crit we actually pick up the KO, but it's able to survive anyway. So this is why Cinderace can actually be a really threatening late game mom when you don't have great speed control. As yeah, opponent's gonna win with just a sliver of HP. But that was a really fun game, and I think what was tricky was like turn 1. I maybe respected the double up into Whimsicott too much, because had I stayed in, Whimsicott could have maybe just gotten a Moonblast off. I mean, Rillaboom surviving from the Moonblast was really clutch there too, but I think we were all expecting it to survive, so that really shouldn't have been super surprising. I'm not sure Rain was the right approach in this game. They brought I don't know. The problem with Rain is that like if you get Tailwind up, the Cinderace can max and actually outspeed us under Rain, and then you partner that up with Tyranitar support, and I actually think it's pretty strong. So I feel like the Pokemon we brought were fine, but turn 1, I kind of wasted my attack with Whimsicott. The Protect on Tyranitar, once again, I think was super obvious. If I predict that and double up onto the Rillaboom, then I just win the game, right? Because then I can just Tailwind Superpower into Tyranitar. So I think I was hoping for my opponent's last one not to be Cinderace, but the way they were playing indicated that it was going to be Cinderace. And so for that reason, I needed to get another Tailwind up in that game. But yeah, interesting to see the Max Quake come out from the Rillaboom. Wasn't expecting that, and I think that definitely gave us a lot of trouble, so well done on my opponent for that. So let's get into this next match. There's a Porygon Z, which is really scary, especially with Clefairy support, because you can just Helping Hand follow me stuff, and you have Friend Guard. So Duraludon feels really good here, actually. especially with the Assault Vest. So I like Duraludon a lot. I mean, I could go Whimsicott, but the problem is because I'm not running Protect on this Whimsicott, a double up is often what's scary, right? Togekiss is actually kind of compelling, though. The thing I want is Duraludon Undertale, and now my opponent doesn't have Weather Control either, so I could just go Kingdra Politoed in this one. I think they have to lead to beat Rain, and I think if you want to lead to beat Rain, I'd probably lead, like, I don't know, Porygon Z. I guess, like, Rillaboom's not great for us here, so maybe I could actually just go Whimsicott to Duraludon with Rain in the back. I think that could work here. Let's see. Togekiss doesn't have that much value, and I think actually if I were to change this Togekiss set, I'd probably add Protect to it over Yawn. We're not using Yawn very much because games are so fast-paced and it's like a more offensive Togekiss, so like I mentioned, I built this team in the beginning of, or when Series 5 rules were announced, so there are definitely some, you know, big things you could change about it. For the most part, it's actually worked out pretty well. I think, like, yeah, if anything, I think this is, it probably needs to be improved on as like a Rain team overall, because as you're seeing, we're often not breaking Rain. In this case, though, I actually think you could justify it because my opponent doesn't have any weather users or setters. So what we want to do is basically leave Rain as a late game option to potentially sweep through. And I think Duraludon looks really good in the early game here. It's this Dracovish and Clefairy, which I am more than happy to see here. This is actually really good for us. The only thing that we might not want to do turn 1 is Dynamax Duraludon. You're probably asking, why don't you want to Dynamax Duraludon? The reason is because if we max Wormwind as Dracovish like switches out into the Corviknight, that could get a little tough. I honestly want to Flash Cannon. Like, we don't even need a Tailwind turn 1, honestly. Because, like, you have to respect the Tailwind, so I kind of want to just Fake Tears, Flash Cannon, Clefairy. We can snipe that off turn 1. Like, it probably just wins us the game. I expect the Corviknight switch in here. That's Rillaboom. Okay, that's also fine. Clef might have protected here. That's the one tricky thing. But even if Clef protects, like, my opponent's really Duraludon weak right now. Unless they have Max Quake Rillaboom, which I guess we just went up against. Nice, no protect. Beautiful. So this should just be a KO. This is once again why, like, leading in this game is just so important. Like, in the last game, it felt like I got outled, and, like, however you play turn 1 in a Dynamax format can just dictate so much offensive momentum. And yeah, if you get the upper edge on leading your out-leading your opponent, and you like make the correct play turn 1, which is what happened here, like it just gives me so much momentum now, right? So Porygon comes out, that's fine. Let's see. You obviously like you're probably gonna max Porygon at this point. Kingdra deals well with Rillaboom. Like as long as we chip away at the Porygon, I think we're in really good shape. The question is whether I sacrifice the Whimsicott, because, like, the Whimsicott, whatever... I'm basically saying the Whimsicott slot's going to go down this turn, either to a Fake-Out Max Strike or... Yeah. So it's like, if I switch the Whimsicott out into Politoed, which is what I'm leaning towards right now, because I don't think Politoed really provides any value other than setting up the Rain, then, yeah, that puts us in a pretty good spot, I would say. I might not even max the Duraludon, honestly, so I can max Kingdra now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'm actually going to Draco into Porygon and switch out into Politoed, because I think Kingdra, once we chip away at Porygon, just one-shots Rillaboom, Dracovish, and Porygon after some chip. Yeah. So I'm switching Whimsicott out here for 2 reasons, Fake Tears as well as setting up the Rain. And, like, if I had Protect with Whimsicott, I'd probably go for it here, but I don't have Protect. Okay. So I think Porygon almost always maxes here. But because we have the Assault Vest and Duraludon's pretty bulky, I think we're fine eating up like a Fake Out. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, my opponent had nothing for Duraludon, right? It was like Clefairy, which Duraludon, you know, just kind of eats already. And then I think Corviknight was the one I was most afraid of just because of the defensive switches that offers. But yeah, they didn't even end up bringing it, which is very favorable for us. So let's see. No Fake Out. That's cool. Nice play on my opponent's end, predicting that. So it's going to go into Politoed, and that actually doesn't one-shot. I gotta say I'm surprised. I was kind of expecting it to. So that might mean Rillaboom going for like a superpower or another fighting type attack or a ground type attack onto the Duraludon, but I don't really care about that, quite frankly, because I still get a big attack off against the Porygon. As long as I don't miss, actually. Oh, they actually have for U-turn. Interesting. Okay. So that even works out better for us, right? Because like we just burnt a turn of Dynamax on our opponent's end. What is scary now is that the Dracovish has like a fast Vicious Ren, right? And I set up the Rain for the Dracovish. If only I Draco Meteor that slot, but nah, this is still fine, I think. As long as we don't miss Draco here. Okay, Draco Meteor connects on Porygon. Perfect. That should put it in KO range at this point from Kingdra, which is what we're looking for. What do I want to do here? I think because, I mean, our Kingdra should just outspeed both of these. Like, Duraludon's pretty good here, right? So, like, I want to switch Duraludon out into a Whimsicott. My opponent might be smart and double up into that slot, so let's see if they end up going for that and just Scald into Porygon Z. Because with the Focus Sash on the Whimsicott, you have to double up onto it for a KO. Even if you do, you give me the free switch into Kingdra, Dracovishes are pretty much always choiced, so like you can't really knock out a Dynamax Kingdra from there. Although it's slower than the Porygon, which is important to know, indicating that it's probably Banded over Scarf. I mean, it's definitely not Scarf, right? Which is good information. Okay, so a second Max Strike comes out, does target the Duraludon slot, which makes me think maybe my opponent did double up into that, which would be a very good play on their end. Vicious Wren comes out. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to see. Because now they give me a free switch into Kingdra. They only have one turn of Dynamax left. Yeah. Also, I'm curious what the item on the Porygon is, because it's not Life Orb, which is, like, I would say almost the golden standard on it. Do we even need to max the Kingdra? To be honest, I can max Duraludon. But I think maxing Kingdra, Geyser, Tailwind here is also fine. I don't even need a Tailwind, do I? Let's see. There's 3 turns of Rain left. I mean, Whimsicott's at -1 speed. Tailwind just ensures that I outspeed with Duraludon in this late game, so might as well just Tailwind to play it safe. Tailwind, and I'm actually leaning towards Worm-winding the Dracovish, because like this Porygon's actually not doing that much with Max Strike anyway, right? Yeah, so I'm going to target Dracovish here. Because I think the Porygon maybe is bulky enough to survive a Max Geyser in Rain, and if it does, and then you double up onto my Kingdra and pick up a KO with, like... Alright, Dracovish switches out, but that's fine. Yeah. It doesn't really matter, I think, at this point, because the Kingdra just exerts so much pressure, and I still have Duraludon in the back. I know it's not Scarf on the Dracovish as well, so a Draco Meteor will just finish it off. But I will say my opponent ended up making this game a lot closer. But like I said, I'm fine giving up pieces because I feel like I've stalled out I feel good about my position. I've stalled out 2 turns of max on my opponent's end. I know these max strikes aren't actually super powerful because like there's no Life Orb. Wormwind's not going to do a ton to a Rillaboom here, but it doesn't really matter because we stalled out Porygon's max after this turn, and now I have 2 Pokemon under Tailwind putting on so much pressure. So I still feel pretty good about my positioning, especially because this is excellent for a late game Kingdra sweep basically, where each turn of its max, it's able to potentially just pick up a KO. Okay. Yeah, I do have to respect Porygon going for Hyper Beam next turn, so we'll probably want to Geyser that slot. Let's see. So Max Strike comes out, see who it's targeting. Gotta go into Kingdra. It's a lot of damage. But I think this should be fine. Like, I'm not worried about Grassy Glide damage, I think, because we got all that chip away from... we got the attack drop from Wormwind, so I think it should be fine. It does make the question of what I want to do this next turn, right? Like, probably switch Whimsicott out, because Whimsicott's actually pretty good offensively now. And I don't want to eat up a Fake Out. So I could switch Whimsicott out into the Duraludon, I think, is what I'm leaning towards here. And what I don't want is for my opponent to protect and Grassy Glide and to hit KO Kingdra with Grassy Glide. So for that reason, I'm just going to Airstream to KO the Rillaboom. Good switch by my opponent last turn, and that was my voice cracking. Got a little too eager. Yeah, this has been an interesting game. Someone should clip that. I can't remember the last time that happened on Road to Ranked. But yeah, I think like Moonblast might even one-shot the Dracovish at this point. I mean, Dracovish hasn't taken any chip. The only way this doesn't work out is if you actually like protect the Rillaboom and then Hyper Beam into Kingdra, which would make this a lot more interesting. So we'll see if they have that. Nope, just Grassy Glide. Okay, good. Alright, so Duraludon takes that. We KO the Rillaboom in return. We still have multiple turns of Tailwind. They don't have priority anymore, so that's exactly what we want. And should be able to just pick up a double KO now. Porygon's main value is from maxing and Hyper Beaming, so now it's not maxed. Sorry, maxing and max striking, so now if you want to attack, obviously you have to Hyper Beam. If you Hyper Beam, well, you've given up, like, your ability to attack the subsequent turn. So now I can just go for something like Draco Meteor. I guess this is still scary because we can miss, but that's the game that we play. I can't help but think I could have played this a little bit better, though. I don't know. Okay, terrain disappears. So bring out Whimsicott. We know we still have Tailwind up. We can just double up on Dracovish. Honestly, I might just Moonblast Thunderbolts. I don't risk the chance of missing, because we know Porygon Z can attack. We know Tailwind is up. I want to say that Dracovish is banded. That's the only item that really makes sense there. Yeah. 2 turns of Tailwind left, 1 turn of Rain. Pretty sure Moonblast Thunderbolt should just KO here, so let's just play it safe. And then we can just Moonblast Dark Pulse, or Moonblast Flash Cannon the Porygon. So like the only way this doesn't work is if Dracovish is Protect, but it's not Life Orb and it's not Scarf, so I think it has to be banded. Watch a Berry come out right now? Okay, no. Banded makes a lot of sense too, right? Because with Porygon, which is a pretty fast Pokemon, you can just Max Strike your opponent. Decrease the speed so that Dracovish comes out and just gets these Vicious Rends off. Yeah. So just playing it safer there, no need to risk a Draco Meteor miss when, yeah, in the position that we're in. Okay. So I can just Flash Cannon now. Let me just make sure. Yep, 1 more turn of Tailwind. We can just Flash Cannon, Fake Tears. Props to my opponent, though. I thought they played really well considering how bad the Duraludon matchup was, in my opinion. So I think, like, yeah, in the end, we were able to make pretty safe plays consistently throughout the game, and that's why I was willing to sacrifice the Politoed and cycle back in, but, like, Kingdra, I was hoping would just accelerate the pace of the game and just, like, pick up KOs immediately. So, yeah, really curious what the item on the Porygon was at the end of the day, because Life Orb is just so common on that, but we'll take it. So, nice game there. Really fun set of games so far today, and we'll play one last one to end our time with the team. Because it's getting a little dark, so I should increase the brightness a little bit. But hopefully you guys have been enjoying the games as well. I think definitely some exciting matches. A Porygon, I think, is a Pokemon I definitely want to play with a little bit going into the future, because it's just really intriguing to me. And it's one that I keep saying I think I kind of slept on a little bit going into the format when we were talking about like potential Pokemon that could be good, right? So, yeah. Okay. That is not what I meant to do, but good enough. Toxtricity is interesting as well as Azumarill, and then there's also Dragapult Bisharp, which I have to like respect Airstream plus like Assurance. My opponent's answer against Rain is either Toxtricity or Azumarill. I think it's likely Azumarill comes out as a lead. Once again, this feels like a good Duraludon. Like, Duraludon just covers a lot of Rain's weaknesses so freaking well, which is why I prioritize it so much in the games I've been playing, as you guys have seen. It's like Duraludon plus... Well, once again, the tricky thing is if I bring out Whimsicott and you lead Rillaboom, it gets a little dicier. So like I could go like Duraludon. Duraludon Kingdra is interesting, as is Duraludon Rillaboom, because my Rillaboom has Fake Out. Duraludon plus... I don't know, like Rain as a late game option here is compelling, because like one route I could go with is like Duraludon, Kingdra, Poly, Whim, but the thing is that like I think Azumarill is such a good counter to most of the things I'm bringing that I want to bring the Rillaboom just to play proactive. The main problem is that like I really want Duraludon under Tailwind. Like that would be really nice. Just not sure how easily I get that going. This is Rain. Oh, we're cutting it close here. Think we got it in on time. I was gonna say it's our last game with this team, so I want to feature the Rain component a little bit more. Hopefully we didn't time out there in the end, because we did cut it pretty close. So let's see. Alright, it's a lot brighter now. There we go. That's what we're going for. Okay. Azumarill Bisharp, yes. I mean, Azumarill I think was always going to come out in this matchup, which is why I wanted that Rillaboom. And this is pretty good for us. Although, I mean, I guess Whimsicott would have been fine, because with Whimsicott we could have just, like, Fake-tiered Max Lightning, but this is also totally okay with me. So I would say we are in pretty good shape right now. This Azumarill's definitely not going to want to stay in, so I predict that switching out. Yeah, okay, we didn't time out, fortunately, which is good. Defense boosts are pretty valuable against my opponent's team. Like, I'm thinking I just max the Duraludon here, Steel Spike into Bisharp, and Superpower it. I should really consider this potential... Like, there's no way Azumarill stays in here, right? It protects or switches out. I could go for a kind of crazy play and Worm win that slot, actually. I'm tempted to. But I don't mind breaking a potential Sash here on Bisharp while also giving myself a defense boost. Yeah, I'm going to double up onto that slot. I really want to knock off the Azumarill, actually. Yeah, let's go for that, because I think it switches out. Nice. Show me Dragon Pole, that would be sick. Okay, I'll take that. Getting rid of Arcanine's item, I think, is always valuable. Like, the main reason I made this play is because if Bisharp protects, then we don't really get anything off this turn. Here, at least I remove Arcanine's item and get a defense boost. Nice switching, though. I'm definitely going to want to switch the Rillaboom out, probably into Politoed this next turn, because, like, Rillaboom is our win con against Azumarill at this point, right? So, the problem is now our opponent has Arcanine out, which pressures with Snarl, but yeah, I didn't want to be Worm-winding in front of a Bisharp, which could potentially eat up Defiant boosts. Okay. He didn't protect with the Bisharp, though, so we could have sniped that for a KO turn 1, but that's still fine by me. It's Goggles Arcanine, so good to know that. He just opted for Assurance. Okay, it doesn't do very much damage because we're not Life Orbed and we don't take any damage previously to the turn. I'm going to Steel Spike off, which is still enough to do 50% to Bisharp. Wow. That's strong. Nice. Okay, that's pretty good. I have to respect Snarl this next turn, I think. Now, I'm faster than the Arcanine with the... I'm faster than the Bisharp with Rillaboom, but that's it. So let's go out on a Politoed. Pressures with Scald. I don't know if a Max Lightning will KO Bisharp, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it's a little stronger than Steel Spike, right? Because of the resistance. I'm thinking it would KO. Bisharp's not very bulky. But, of course, I have to respect the potential of Snarl here. I think I still switch out, though. Because I have the Berry as well. I just take this pretty well. So, I don't know. Turn 1, I guess if we double up into Bisharp, we're probably in better shape because we get rid of a relatively offensive threat. And then the main thing is that my opponent has to bring in something in front of the Duraludon. Here I'm expecting Snarl and Assurance. Maybe even a Protect on the Bisharp. Snarl. Poly avoids it. Okay. Duraludon's the one we really wanted to avoid there. But, like I said, we have definitely tested our... luck in the last couple of days, so I can't complain about something like that. The miss is actually a really big deal on Politoed, never mind, because if you connect that, then you do obviously more damage with Assurance, so once again, pretty lucky for us here. Bisharp does hang on, though, from the Max Lightning with what looks like 1 HP. Okay. So that's a little unfortunate, but that's okay. I'm going to protect Politoed this next turn, and what does my opponent Dynamax at this point? Dragapult, maybe? So I think I'm just going to go for another Steel Spike. Defense boosts are nice at this point, just passively for Politoed and Protect. Yeah, the dodge was a big deal actually on the Politoed, because if that connects, we take more damage. And the Snarl's relatively obvious. I maybe should have just stayed in with Rillaboom and just gone for the knockout onto Bisharp, because I know I have a fighting type attack. Either way, though, obviously Arcanine doesn't fare very nicely against... Or, like, Kingdra just destroys the Arcanine, Rillaboom destroys the Azumarill, so the big question is what maxes on my opponent's end at this point in the game. We do have 2 defense boosts, which is important to note on Duraludon's end as well, so I feel like my opponent's kind of forced to bring in whatever your last Pokemon is. If it's that Dragapult, I'm actually not afraid of you at all, because I've got Duraludon with the Assault Vest with 2 defense boosts, and a Kingdra with Life Orb waiting for my opponent in the back. Plus, I know the Arcanine doesn't have its item anymore. So, I don't really need Politoed in this game other than setting up the rain, but, you know, it does wall the Arcanine decently well, too, so that's an advantage. So, let's see what comes out. This could be a position to bring in a Azumarill solely because you're like, okay, my opponent doesn't have that much offense, but the last one is revealed, and it's going to be Toxtricity, which is actually really interesting because I did just set up the terrain for it. Okay. And, like, you could obviously just go for, like, another Snarl right now, but I think we just have to maximize our damage against Toxtricity. This thing is actually maybe really scary. Especially because, you know, it's probably G-Max. If I'm my opponent, I'm probably Snarling again here. I kind of want to try to stall out the terrain on my opponent. Or not the terrain, sorry. Just the max on my opponent's end. So what I want to do is just Draco Meteor into Toxtricity here, switch Politoed out into Rillaboom. Because then I can, like, fake out Arcanine. I don't know. I feel like Kingdras are late game win con. Okay, they switch Arcanine out. That was maybe a bold switch on my end. Because if I call this incorrectly and you KO my Rillaboom, I just get walled out by Azumarill now. Yeah, I maybe should have considered that a little bit more, actually. I really like how defensively my opponent played this early game. And I got punished by not trying to pick up the KO on Bisharp ultimately, because Duraludon would have put in a lot of work if Bisharp went down on turn 1. So this is the classic stall your opponent's Dynamax out and then exert maximum pressure with your Dynamax. And unfortunately for us, without any ground-type attacks, this Toxtricity is looking pretty scary for us. So, cool to see that come out. I don't think Togekiss or Whimsicott were really going to offer us too much against this, so I don't think Pokemon choice-wise we really went wrong. I just maybe... I just didn't exert enough pressure, basically, early. Here's Stun Shock. It's gonna go into Rillaboom. Okay. Survive that. It's good. Let's see. Obviously, Paralysis on Duraludon. Double Para. Fun. And we get fully paralyzed, but I can't complain about that, obviously. I don't know. Beating this Toxtricity is going to be a huge pain. Because, like, the problem is that I kind of need both of my Pokemon right now, right? I mean, Duraludon's useless for us. The Sulfus means it actually is able to do a sizable amount of damage. Here, if I'm my opponent, I'm protecting the Azumarill or switching out into Arcanine and then trying to knock out Rillaboom, probably with, like, max Ooze. So, like, I need to conserve Rillaboom. The only scary thing is if I double switch and call it incorrectly, but I feel like because, even though we're up in Pokemon, I feel like I'm actually behind right now, so I'm actually going to commit the double switch here. The idea behind this is I need to save Rillaboom for Azumarill in the late game. Let's see. And, yeah, okay, Azumarill switches out, good. Also interesting to note, the Azumarill's still slower than us, even with the paralysis, because speed is in order of... Sorry, switches are in order of speed. Okay. So, yeah, this is exactly why we need to conserve Rillaboom. At least what I can do here... I'm just really hoping it's not another Stun Shock. Yep, there's Max Ooze. Okay, that's what we want to see. This thing is giving us trouble, though, obviously, but that's pretty much the best case scenario. Yeah, like, now I have Helping Hand, Muddy Water Pressure. It's just if I stall out Dynamax, then Kingdra really sweeps through, right? This is an intense game. These games all have been really intense today, so... Always love a good game of Pokemon. The main thing is basically I don't want to get fully paralyzed. I guess we'll still be faster though, right? Unless you Stun Shock the Politoed, because then I don't have... Like, basically if I switch Politoed out here, I'll be able to conserve the rain. Actually, I think that's the play. Muddy Water here and switch Poly out into Duraludon. I also don't know... And Arcanine switches out. Okay, good switch. I don't know if +1 Stun Shock KOs the Kingdra, because if so, then this was a mistake. At least what I've done was stall out the Dynamax now, but I don't know. I feel like it might have been safe. I can't switch both, like, I can't switch both of my Pokemon out there, though. That's the problem. We missed the Toxtricity, which is unfortunate, but for all the luck we've gotten in the last couple of days, once again, I can't really complain. Okay, Stun Shock into Kingdra. Okay, let's see if it one-shots us. It does one-shot. Okay, I thought we'd survive there. Then the correct play was to have just switched out into Duraludon and try to sweep with the late game. I was thinking with the Muddy Water damage onto the Toxtricity, I could Helping Hand Draco Meteor to KO the Tox as well. But I think now this game is very tough to win. But yeah, I can't complain about a miss like that, really. I thought my opponent would try to knock out the Politoed there, so I don't know. A double switch might have sufficed for us, right? If I go Kingdra into Duraludon, Poly into the Rillaboom, we actually probably just win off that. Wanted to just go for the Muddy Water damage, but yeah. I also thought we would survive the +1 Stun Shock, which was maybe a little bit ambitious on my end. This is still winnable, though, so I'm not going to give up. I'm going to just protect here, because, like, Draco will still do a lot to Toxtricity. And, like, we have the Assault Vest on the Duraludon. Like, Duraludon walls my opponent's team. The problem is that I did not play to Duraludon in this game. I wonder if it's actually Belly Drum Azumarill. Like, we haven't seen this Azumarill at all, but defensively it just fares quite nicely against what I brought. Liquidation. Okay. That's a lot of damage. And we get fully paralyzed. Alright. I think if we got into Muddy Water off last turn and get the Draco off this turn, it's actually still a pretty favorable game for us, because as long as Toxtricity is out of the way, the Politoed can check the Arcanine, but like I said, we've gotten our fair share of luck with this team in the last couple of days. Plus, I feel like my opponent really played quite nicely. The main play... I'm not going to forfeit here. I guess we can still maybe try to eke out a win. How do we win this? Is there any way we can win? No, I don't really think so. Because Liquidation is actually doing a ton of damage, right? Yeah, I would need for some reason for my opponent to not KO Duraludon and just KO the Toxtricity with Helping Hand Draco Meteor, but I think the game's over after this turn. But I think the losses today were really close as well. Felt like it could have really gone either way. The main thing in this game that I thought my opponent executed really nicely was basically stalling out the Dynamax. And the Bishop hanging out with 1 HP was the real problem there, because we KO that, then you have to bring in either Azumarill or Toxtricity. With Toxtricity, any chip damage is important in this game. So my mistake in this game was Kingdra, basically. The turn Arcanine switched out was really obvious, so what I really should have done was just stalled out Dynamax completely, not even risk it with my Kingdra. Because if I stall out Max, then like Helping Hand Muddy Waters are doing a lot of damage. My only fear was that my opponent was going to predict my Kingdra switch out, target the Politoed, and KO. Because I was like, I need the Rillaboom for the Azumarill as well, so if you snipe the Rillaboom, that's pretty bad. But I think I could have won the game with Kingdra, Politoed, and Duraludon. I didn't really need the Rillaboom, because AV Duraludon with Thunderbolt still does pretty well into the Azumarill. So what I needed to do in this game was the turn Kingdra went down. Well, one, I didn't know my Toxtricity calcs very well, but I don't know why I had so much faith in Kingdra there. What would have been better was to pull out a double switch, basically. Into Duraludon and Rillaboom. That actually probably would have just won us the game, especially based off how my opponent played that turn. Even if the worst case happens, I think we're still in a pretty good spot, so yeah. But, I think these losses are really important to highlight as well, because we obviously had a really good string of games with this team, but it's important to highlight where the weaknesses are as well, and I think this exposes some of it, right? Like, Politoed didn't do very much for us in these games other than set up Rain, which is fine, but if I want to sweep with my sweepers, I really need to put on more pressure, and like the problem in this game was that I didn't get enough out of my Dynamax. Those Steel Spikes weren't really that important. Wasn't able to KO the Bisharp, which was the main problem, and it was, it hanging out with just a little bit made this game a lot harder. So turn 1, especially with how good the lead matchup was for us, I really should have been able to push the tempo a little bit more, whether it be a double up onto the Bisharp or double up into the Azumarill, which I think was almost always switching there. So that could have been better. And then I'm trying to think about what we could have done better in the other loss. It's the games have honestly kind of just mended or blended in at this point. But I think right in that one, like the Cinderace conservation was really smart on my opponent's end. Plus, it also felt like I didn't get a ton out of my Dynamax in that one. Togekiss actually put in a fair amount of work, so I shouldn't say a ton. But in that game, the matter was more speed control than anything. But either way, I think all of the games today were really close, and close losses are always really good to learn from as well. So slightly longer episode for you guys, but definitely some fun games. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys soon. All right, peace.